What's going on today? It's your host, SchuZ Schumaker, and today I'm being joined by one of the expected stars on this year's number 16 ranked Arkansas team. He comes to Arkansas as one of the top transfers from the offseason after having a legendary 4-year career at South Dakota. Throughout that 4-year span, he set himself as one of the top players in program history by breaking the school scoring record, finishing third all time in rebounds, first in field goals made, 10th in three-pointers, 8th in assists, 4th in blocks, as well as putting himself inside the top 10 in multiple other stat categories. He also was selected to 3 All-Summit League teams, and last season he was the 9th leading scorer in the entire country. And that's Stanley Umude. Walk us through everything going on right now, because this obviously has been a transition. You spent 4 years now out there at South Dakota, created a legacy. Now you're heading to the SEC. You're getting ready to head into your final year of college basketball. Take us through this, how you're feeling, emotions, excitement, like what's going through your mind right now?
Yeah, no, I'm really excited, just blessed for the opportunity to be here. Obviously last year with COVID, it could have been my last year, but we got that extra year. So now able to, fulfill the dream of playing at this level. So I'm just real blessed and excited.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to kind of go through your journey. We're going to get in Arkansas and stuff in the end of this, but we had all the way back. You're originally from Texas, to be more specific, San Antonio. So walk us through that a little bit. Like, what was like growing up on out there?
It was good. No, it was good growing up there. Me, my brother, my mom, my sister. My brother actually started playing first, so I just kind of followed in his footsteps. AAU ball, played with the next level Raiders in San Antonio. I didn't join the circuit team at all. I stayed with the team I played with when I was younger. Mm-hmm. Just tried to stick with them because they did a lot for me, and that loyalty was really big for me. So just sticking with them, and it kind of hindered my recruitment a little bit, I guess, not playing on that circuit team. But by my very last AAU tournament in Vegas, there I got my first few offers. South Dakota offered me New Hampshire, Abilene Christian, and UIW, Incarnate Word in San Antonio. So those are my 4 offers. And, I took my visit to Abilene Christian, took a visit to South Dakota. I had one of my former AAU teammates actually playing in South Dakota, Brandon Armstrong. So that kind of helped me, just knowing that somebody was up there, and he kind of just had to go through the same transition that I was getting ready to go through. So, and I really enjoyed my visit. So I just went from there. It felt like the right fit, and just went from there.
We're going to go a little bit deeper in each part of the story, but over, like we just said, like you look at your journey, you weren't obviously a higher ranked player. We see you now, you're one of the top scorers in the country. You're going to most likely be starting and one of the key players at Arkansas now this upcoming year. Just like you said, it wasn't always a story. You weren't the high ranked player coming out of high school. You didn't have offers from in Arkansas and all these type of schools that wanted you. So just looking at like the forward view now, like you see everything, the way it's unfolded, the way God's worked to get you to this point. Like what kind of goes to your mind when you just look back at that and kind of see how far you've come?
Yeah, I just think that, like you said, like God has a plan always. And if you trust yourself and you trust that plan and you just stay the course, things are going to work out for you. Because like even at South Dakota, I was thinking, okay, if I'm coming here, I'm thinking as a freshman, I was like, okay, let me just be one and done if I'm going to be playing in South Dakota, But it wasn't easy just like that from the start over there. I had to earn my spot. I was actually, at a mid-major, we don't got all the managers and GAs and stuff like that. So I was one of the guys actually my freshman year pulling out the stools during timeouts and things like that. So I didn't play much my freshman year. I didn't redshirt, but I played enough to where I couldn't redshirt. I just got in. The game was already decided, basically. Played for Coach Smith there, and he ended up leaving after my first year there. He went to Utah State. So it was kind of a tough spot for me after that first year, just not really playing the way as much as I expected. And with the coach that recruited me leaving, I was a lot of uncertainty there, like, do I go JUCO? Or do I stick it out with the new coach? And, I decided to just, I prayed a lot, stayed with my family, and, they told me to just, stay where you're taken care of. So I did that, and I just stayed the course. And that year I eventually broke out my sophomore year and went up from there.
Now, was basketball always a sport that you grew and kind of loved from the beginning? Did you ever try football, or like was basketball just always a sport that you loved?
It was always basketball. My brother started playing that, and I went after him. I had a lot of friends that played football, especially my senior year in high school. I almost almost went and did that, but I was like, let me just stick it out, you know.
In terms of high school, walk us through the decision to go to Warren High. Because like I said, a lot of guys might even go to prep school route eventually, but you stuck it out. You went to Warren High then for your high school career. So what led you to like, why was it the high school you wanted to attend for your freshman season?
It wasn't nothing too much. It was close to my house. There was actually a high school even closer to my house that I was supposed to go to where all my middle school friends, they all went to a different high school. But Warren had they had more, like they were more prestigious basketball wise. They were the more prestigious schools basketball wise in the city of San Antonio. So, you know, there's guys like Marcus Keene that went there, Torian Prince came through there, Ben Uzo. So I knew that they had a really good basketball program, and I just wanted to try to give myself the best opportunity of playing at the next level.
In that freshman season, take us to that a little bit. Like, what was your freshman year like? And if we even go before that, like, could you imagine yourself having the high school career that you did? Obviously, you had pretty good seasons. You had a junior season, obviously went through an injury to get into in a second, but your sophomore, senior year, you had all the district years. You were averaging 23 a game your senior year. Like, did you expect yourself to become that type of player heading into high school?
I did. You know, in middle school, I was always my best player. I was always kind of seen as the underdog in San Antonio, but, you know, people knew I could play. And I was always, confidence has always been, you know, a real big thing for me throughout my whole career playing basketball. So for me, I had a lot of confidence in myself. My freshman year there, I actually played on the freshman team, and I felt like I should have at least been JV. There was another freshman who was actually playing varsity. So I was thinking it kind of humbled me a little bit at the same time, but it made me work even harder, you know, to get to that varsity level, because I felt like I was better than playing freshman, but I knew what my coach was trying to do. He was trying to bring it something out of me and try to get me to, you know, just understand that you got to wait your turn and you got to keep getting better. So then my freshman year was that. Sophomore year, I ended up getting on varsity. We had a really good team. We were a game away from state, which in Texas is real hard to do. So that was the closest we got then. And then my junior year was obviously probably one of my worst years, like as far as mental and, you know, just physical condition, as far as, you know, getting hurt on my wrist and then coming back. I got hurt in my wrist on a Friday. I got my cast off on a Friday, and then I went to practice on a Monday, and then I broke my leg and I was completely out for the season. So that was a tough point for me. People were telling me like, maybe you should stop playing. Maybe you got like something wrong with you as far as all these injuries. And because I had never got injured before then. And it was tough for me to, you know, have to fight through that. But my mom was with me every day. She helped me. She kept me steady headed. And I just got through the injuries, and I attacked rehab hard, and I got back by that summer. And that was whenever I first finally got my offers at the end of that summer.
Now, something that's kind of crazy, because you talk about a guy that you didn't even play varsity as a freshman year. You then go through and you have a junior year, which is typically known as one of the bigger years for guys in basketball in terms of recruiting process, taking your visits, getting recruited. How did you handle that? I mean, we kind of talked about faith a little bit earlier too. So, like, what did you rely on? How did you get through those times when obviously the dream scenario is just playing varsity all year, you're getting heavily recruited? How did you deal with that?
It was tough. It was tough for sure. But, you know, obviously keeping my faith, believing in God's plan. That was the first thing I said when I broke my leg and I found out I was done for the year. I said, you know, God has a plan that was, you know, greater than mine. So, and I did lose. I actually getting after my sophomore year, I was building momentum as far as like high major recruiting going. Like I had some high major schools reaching out to me after my sophomore year. I was growing, I was getting better. And then the injuries hit, and then it was like starting all over. So, you know, it was tough. Like it was tough for me, like just going through that. But my mom was with me every day. She, you know, she took care of me the greatest. My grandpa was in San Antonio at the time too, so he helped me a lot with everything I had to do. But it was real tough, you know, just laying in bed. And my junior year, obviously, my team's playing every game, and I just want to hoop. So it was tough, but I just, you know, kept my faith in God, and my family helped me get through it too.
And I know a lot of people talk about different states, and there's a lot of the top states out there. Obviously, it's always a heavy debate. Texas is generally known as a football school, but if you look at the talent that's coming out of there for basketball, it's clearly in there. I have them right now as the best state in terms of the next generation of guys coming out. So take us to that, though. You grew up in the state, and I know it's kind of broken down. You guys don't always look at just as one state at a time. Like you have your area down there, San Antonio, you got Houston, Dallas, but walk us through that. Like you're growing up with all these different top level guys all over the state. What was just like basketball wise growing up out there?
It was tough, you know, because everyone could play. You know, the best player on each team was most likely going to end up making it to a Division I school. So
Yep.
it was tough because, it's tough, but it also helped because, you're getting better. You're getting better with that. And I think that really helped me growing up and playing against those guys. It helped me to see like just exactly how good they were. And it helped me to know that like, okay, I'm just as good as these guys too. So it was good.
If you could pick one guy, who'd you say was your favorite matchup to go up against during high school?
Marco Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Now take us to that because obviously he's an all-defensive type player now. He's heading on to Utah for next year. Take us through you guys, like just going up against him. He could score, obviously, back then too. He was a big-time scorer, but he obviously is known as one of the better defenders now in the country. You're one of the better scorers. So what are those games like when you go up against him? Just take us through that.
Yeah, I've been playing against Marco since the 6th or 7th grade. So those matchups are always fun. Like I always looked forward to playing against him. He had more pub in the city for sure. He was more well known and I liked that. I liked playing against him and having to be kind of like the underdog. I like to challenge him, but he was a real good player. He was just almost as big as he is now. I hit a growth spurt. I remember my sophomore year, I hit a late growth spurt. But in middle school, he was damn near as big as he is now. So he was a load to guard, but the matchups were always fun. I loved playing against him. I'm still in touch with him, and I wish the best for him.
And he was on here a few months ago, talked right after he made his transfer portal move to Utah. But did you guys ever discuss teaming up together at some point? I mean, obviously both guys in the portal. Obviously both guys had a lot of high-level offers. Did you guys ever say, do we have anything in similar? Could we possibly team up something? Like, was that ever a conversation you guys had?
We did after when I entered the portal after my sophomore year at South Dakota. I was thinking about it because obviously he was playing for my coach that was at South Dakota at Utah State. So I was thinking about it. Utah State was recruiting me, and I knew that he was there, so it would have been fun. I was thinking about the idea, and the idea of it was real fun to think about, but it never really went anywhere.
Absolutely. Well, let's head now into your senior season. That's really was the statement year you had out there. 23 points a game, all district, 19-13 as a team. Take us to that senior year because at that point, I'm sure you had the pressure on you a little bit. Like, I need to get these offers. I need to go perform. Walk us through that senior year for yourself.
Oh, that was huge. And I ended up committing before the season was one of the tougher decisions I had to make, but I felt that it was right for me to do because just what happened my junior year with the injuries and whatnot. Yep. I had a couple high major schools talking to my AU coaches, talking about like, maybe if he waits until after his senior season, we'll have some spots open up, this and that. But I wasn't just gonna risk that, especially after losing out on the whole season. I know how that felt. So I was content with my offers, and I was happy with going to South Dakota. So I ended up signing before the season, so I didn't have to, carry that burden into the season of having to work for offers and this and that. So I think that was one of the better decisions I made. And obviously it's worked out when I look back on it because I was able to just go out there and have fun my senior year, just play with my guys and not really worry too much about getting any offers or this and that, just, trying to focus on making it to the state championship was my main goal. And I was one of the main guys. I had a point guard, Isaiah Thorne. He ended up going to Air Force, and he was a real good player too. So it was real fun that senior year.
You brought up a couple different points earlier about the situation. You kind of took a unique route, AAU-wise in high school a little bit too. And in terms of AAU, like you said, you didn't go with the shoe brand teams. You didn't go with the UAA or an Adidas or a Nike. So walk us through that decision. Like, I'm sure you had the opportunity to possibly go to something, at least try out for those teams. What led you to stay loyal? Like, why did you decide to say, okay, I'm going to stay loyal to this team. I'm not going to go play on the bigger stage. Like, walk us through the decision why you chose to do that.
Yeah, I think it's just something that's been in me. I think it's hard for me to leave certain people, after building that relationship and not completing what I've wanted to complete. So I think I did had multiple opportunities to join circuit teams, especially later on in my high school career. But my guy, Coach Mo Harrison, he's like a father figure to me, and he's the coach at the Next Level Raiders. So he did a lot of things for me, and since before I hit my growth spurt, before I was even projected to do anything, like he was picking me up for practices, and I was riding with him to games and whatnot because my mom wasn't able to; she was working. So just little things like that he was able to do for me. I just couldn't turn on him like that, and I'm happy I stuck it out with him too.
And so if you go back, I know a lot of guys, the mentality now is, especially today as the media gets larger and larger, is go play the big shoe brands. Even if it might be only playing a couple of minutes, go play with those teams. So what would be your advice to guys? Like, obviously you didn't get the high level offers, but down the road, it still all panned out for you. I'm sure you exactly like how it panned out now, all the records we'll get into, obviously going to Arkansas now. So what is your advice to guys? Like, if they're deciding between a high level circuit or playing on your kind of your local non-shoe brand team, what would be your advice to different guys going through that process?
Yeah, I would just say make sure that whatever you do, make sure you have a good reason for doing it. Like, you don't want to just go play for a Nike team just because they're a Nike team, and you don't want to just go do that just because of this. Like, make sure you got your own personal reasons as to why you're doing what you're doing and that you're comfortable with that reason. So that's what I would have to say.
The other thing I got to ask you too is at what point would you say it clicked for you? Like, when would you start feeling like, okay, I truly am now a high level Division I player. I feel like I could play at any college in the country. Like, did that happen during high school? Did it take to a college for that to set in for you? Like, when did that point come for you?
I would say it came my senior year for sure. That's when most of the doubt all the doubt I had. I always had a lot of confidence in myself, but obviously I had some doubt in my game. But I think senior year when I really started working on my game and really started to expand my game, I got taller, stronger. That's when I realized that, like I could really take it far with this. My sophomore year, I was more of a role player, and obviously injuries my junior year. But then after rehabbing all the injuries and I came back stronger, faster, and, I just expanded my game my senior year. It kind of felt like it was just coming easy to me. So that's when I felt like I could go far with it.
Well, let's get into that recruiting process a little bit more now. As you said, you didn't have offers from all over the country. You had four, and we know where you obviously chose. You chose South Dakota, but take us through each one of those decisions and how Coach Craig Smith ultimately won you over.
Yeah, from the start, after they were the first team to offer me, actually, first of all, and then so that was actually big for me, that they took a chance on me knowing that no one else had me, and from that point on, it was basically like which one of these schools is going to be able to beat them out, and I wasn't really trying to stay too close to home, so like Incarnate Word was kind of out of the picture, and then like Abilene Christian in New Hampshire. Abilene Christian, there was a great program, and they actually ended up having some pretty good years since I've been in college too. So They were a great program. My visit went great. The players were great. Coach was great, but it just didn't feel right for me. I wanted to kind of get a little bit more out, and I felt like South Dakota, I can build more of a name for myself and try to do something special for what they had up there too. So the recruiting wasn't too hot for me as for, compared to some other guys, but I'm grateful that I ended up where I ended up.
And there's a lot of guys. I mean, you have your 5-star, your top level guys that they can probably go anywhere in the country for the most part. Not even all of them pan out the way, kind of the way everyone expects them to. But after that, like a lot of guys have been starting to take saying, okay, I can go to mid-major and still be successful. We've seen the rise in the Mountain West. We've seen the A10. We've seen even Max Asmus in your conference too now go. Like, how big is that for a player? And if you even were in that position, like, do you think if Arkansas and the big schools were recruiting you out of high school, would you have been ready as a freshman to go out there and perform at that level? Or do you think the past 3-4 years being in college at South Dakota has helped prepare you for this moment now?
Yeah, I think that's a great question I haven't thought about, but I don't think I would have been ready, actually, if I would have went straight to a big-time program like this. Because, I mean, even obvious, I wasn't even playing at South Dakota. I wasn't even getting my freshman year. So there's obviously a lot of things that I had to do, like mentally, just learning the game more was really what it was. And like, looking back on it, it's like I was just, it's just how we are. I was young. I thought that I was going to come in and just play right away. But looking back on it, I know that I wasn't ready. I'm just real grateful that I was able to learn everything that I was able to learn without having to, go through having to go to a high major and think about why am I not playing this and that. And then it would have been even harder to get on the floor that second year. So it's when I think back on it, I just feel like you could really make a movie out of it, how well everything's been working out. I could just only thank God for how, for making me make the right decisions and guiding me the right way. So yeah, I don't think I would have been able to, handle that at that time.
Let's hop into that freshman season. I know every freshman in the country, no matter what school you go to, the mentality is, all right, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to be the guy again, just like I was my senior year of high school. And for a small percentage, that might be the case. But every other freshman in the country, there's obviously accepting some type of role. And as you said, you didn't even get to play too much that year. So how did you adjust to that? Like, how did you take in going from an all-district 23-point per game guy in high school to now settling down, being a bench role, not playing too many games? Like, how did you adjust to that?
It was hard. It was hard for sure at first. I was, especially with the way the recruiter was going, I was feeling like I was going to come in and have an immediate impact.
Mm-hmm.
So it was hard at first. And I think for younger guys, like freshmen coming in, I think the hardest thing is it's kind of like the embarrassment is what it is. Like the embarrassment of like, oh, I'm supposed to be playing. My guys back home probably watching games, thinking I'm supposed to be playing. My family's probably wondering why am I not playing. So,
Yep.
And especially being at South Dakota, I mean, we had a great team that year. We had Matt Mooney, we had Trevor Manning, and we almost made it to the NCAA tournament. It was a great team. We were winning games,
Yep.
but and that's what also helped too. The fact that we were winning. Me, like I've always been a team player, so I couldn't obviously just be mad about it because we were winning games. I was still happy to be winning, but to not be playing was tough for me. So, but it was tough. Yeah, mentally it was tough. But I also had two guys that were from Houston. I had Walter Prevost and Josh Williams. They were both my guys. They came from Houston, and we were all kind of going through the same thing. So, and we were all, we were taking turns taking the stools out at timeout and whatnot. Like, oh, it's my turn, it's your turn. We hated doing it at home too, especially because, like, dang, all these people here watching us take out these stools. Like, but nah, it was good to have them with me and just knowing that I wasn't the only one going through it. And looking back on it, I would say I wish I redshirted, but COVID, kind of got me that back. So I'm not even really tripping on that. So, but for the most part, I was just I don't ever remember getting too down on myself. I was just, I talked to the coaching staff a lot. I knew that my time was coming, and I was just trying to learn as much as I could from the older guys on that team. So.
Was redshirting your freshman year an option, or was it something that you just said, okay, I don't want to redshirt. I think I can get minutes sometime down the road? Like, was that an option for you to just decide you didn't want to take that, or what? Kind of take us to that a little bit.
It was an option, but I was stubborn, and I talked to some of the coaches. They didn't say that they wanted to redshirt me, but they said that like it would be in my best interest to redshirt, but I could also, I could work my way into the rotation. And hearing that, I was thinking I'm just going to work as hard as I can, and I'm going to earn my way onto the floor. And It never worked out that way, but it is what it is at this point.
So if someone then would have told you that 3 or 4 years from that point on, you're going to end up leaving the school as debatably the best player in program history. I mean, you're top 10 in pretty much every stat category. You have the most points, third in rebounds, top 10 threes, and the list goes on. Did you expect yourself to have that kind of incredible legacy, that type of career at South Dakota after that freshman year?
If somebody would have told me that that's what would happen, I would have believed them. Yes. But because that was just the confidence in me. I was just, I felt like if I was able to get on the court and get comfortable, then everything else would have took care of itself. So the hardest part for me was to just work on doing the things that it took to get on the court. And that was the main thing for me as far as after that freshman year and when Coach Lee came in before my sophomore year.
And there is one guy that you mentioned, and I know a lot of people know him in the college world. He also got an opportunity to play in the NBA for a little bit too, and that's Matt Mooney. And I think a lot of people don't realize how big that can be, especially for a young guy, to be around a guy that works hard, a guy that's an incredible player, and a guy that has that pro level mentality. How big was that for you? Just kind of watch a guy score the way he did, kind of take up and do what you ultimately ended up becoming as a player then. How big was he for you in your development?
He was huge. He was, and I didn't even like him my freshman year. I was, because I was a freshman out of high school. I never did any pre-practice or post-practice like treatment or this and that. Mm-hmm. So I was always looking at him like, why are you doing all of this? Like he was the hardest work I've ever been around. Lived in the gym. I just always used to be like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing? Like he used to have heat pads before practice, and I'm like, you're so like high maintenance, this and that. I used to always be on him, and I was a freshman. I didn't like him, and I made it clear. But like it wasn't like I hated him. It was just kind of like I kind of questioned like what he was doing and this and that. So, but like, and I was always looking at him too. He's always like, why are you looking at me? I'm always just looking at him, but I wasn't really trying to like learn from him. I was just trying to like figure him out, kind of like, what is he like? What's going through his head? Why is he doing all of this and that? And it's just crazy how everything goes full circle. That's all I can say, as far as that, because when I was a senior, just this past year, I had freshmen doing the same thing to me. And I remember sending them a text like, dang, bro, like I remember my freshman year, like I was like, you must have hated me. Like this, it's kind of crazy how the tables turn. He was just like, and I'm still in touch with him. I talk to him often. He's one of my guys, but he was huge for me as far as as far as my development. And I'll never forget that. I'll never forget Mooney for sure.
So when did it click for you? Like when did you start saying, "Oh shoot, I actually do need this stuff now. I'm gonna start using some of those things he was doing as a senior or sophomore, junior at that point." Like when did you start kind of incorporating the things that you learned and kind of saw him doing?
I would say the start of my junior year. The start of my junior year, whenever I really started locking in and had to be more of a leader, and so I would say around my junior years when I started kind of turning into my inner Mooney.
Mm-hmm. Well, as you mentioned, then you have a big change happening heading into your sophomore year. And this already was a situation where you weren't playing a ton we just talked about. And then your head coach that recruited you leaves, and that's always a challenging spot for any player. So how did you adjust to that? Was it a surprise that Coach Craig Smith left to go to Utah State? Do you kind of expect him to leave? Like take us through that whole offseason and how you handled the coaching change.
Yeah, it was kind of tough because it was kind of a surprise, and it kind of just left me kind of thinking, like, what am I supposed to do now? Because like they recruited me so hard to get here, and they obviously saw my potential, but I was just thinking like, what if the next guy doesn't see my potential, and like, what if it doesn't work out? And then the two guys that I mentioned from Houston, Josh Williams and Walter Prevost, that summer going into Coach Lee era, they actually ended up transferring because like Coach Lee and them didn't really see eye to eye. So my two guys that were from Texas ended up leaving, and I'm the only one there. So I'm just kind of like, I knew I was staying, but it was just like here we go. Like this is it. This is my sophomore year. I can't go 2 years without playing this and that. So it was tough.
And like you said, that is the typical thing, like especially now with the portal now being free to go and just go different places. Like a lot of guys, if there's a coaching change, we saw entire rosters just go to the portal now and leave. And a couple of guys did come back. So for you though, at that point, you didn't even enter it. You still stayed with the coach and you kind of got adjusted to Coach Lee. So when he first got hired, did you guys just kind of click right away? Did it take some time to adjust? Or like what kind of led you to say, okay, I want to stay here for my sophomore year?
We didn't click right away, but I mean, I had made my decision that I was going to stay, whether like either I liked them or not. So I didn't go JUCO or try to go to a different. I didn't have any stats or film to go to a different school, but I didn't want to go JUCO. So I was, I made my decision. I talked with my family, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to stay. Hopefully, I like them. And I liked him. I always liked him as a person, but at first it was tough for me to understand what he was trying to get out of me. Like looking back now, it's clear he was 100% right. But he told me in order to play, like I got to play defense and I got to rebound. And I was still in my high school, like I'm still like, okay, I'm a scorer. Like this is what I'm a scorer. That's what I do. So his big thing with me was just defensively and rebounding. Like I was a good rebounder, but I wasn't as active defensively as he wanted me to be. I wasn't in a stance nearly as often as he wanted me to be. And I just thought that he was picking on me. He always told me he doesn't know my game. He doesn't this and that. And this is my sophomore year. Like, I always thought he was picking on me. And then I didn't even start at the beginning of my sophomore year. And I had somebody who was younger than me starting over me, which I thought that I was. And I could have probably asked the whole team and they probably would have said that I was better than him, like more talented than him. But I just wasn't doing the little things that he wanted me to do as far as, just focusing on defense and rebounding. He said, when you go in the game, I want you to think about playing defense and rebounding. And I remember having a meeting with him too. Like this is before the season even started. Like he was telling me all this stuff. And I remember meeting with him and I told him, I was like I always been a scorer. Like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, it's hard for me to go in there thinking about other things whenever it's like scoring is what I want to do. And he was telling me like, he basically just said, like, a lot of guys have to adjust. Like, everyone scored in high school or everyone scored where they were at. Like, you're going to have to adjust because, like, you're not going to play if you don't play defense and rebound. So it was just, that was the main thing for me. And it got to the point, I remember like around September, October, like I knew that I wasn't going to be starting. And it was like, okay, here we go again. Like, I remember Tyler Hagedorn went down that year and he was one of the best 3-point shooters in the country. And he went down his senior year, my sophomore year. And when he went down, I was like, it's a blow for the team for sure, but that would have opened up that spot for me to start. And I still wasn't going to be starting. So then I was really thinking like, this guy just doesn't like me. Cause I mean, you can ask, talent wise, it was good, but I just thought that he just didn't like me, but obviously he was just trying to get something else out of me.
And that's interesting, pretty huge, because obviously those new traits you have in your game, your defense and your rebounding, is what makes you now a guy that people are saying is going to be one of the top players in the SEC and also could have a chance now playing in the NBA in a year. So kind of when did you start buying into that aspect? Like when did you start saying, okay, my scoring is there. I know what I can do on that aspect, but I truly am going to lock in on defense. I'm going to lock in on getting rebounds. Like when did you start finally buying into that part?
I started buying in, when the season started, kind of like it was like that's when he started. I found out that I had to play that year because we were limited on guys. So like, even if I wasn't doing that as well as he wanted me to, he was still gonna have to put me in. So it was just kind of getting comfortable with it and just getting comfortable with the game because basically it was kind of like he always said it too. It was like that year was like my freshman year because I played the year before. So it was just kind of just getting out there and getting comfortable, and I kind of just made it to where I was like, I'm going to force him. I'm going to make it to where he'll look dumb if I'm not starting or if I'm not playing. So I remember that year I had a breakout game against Kansas. They were number one at the time at 28, 6-4. And we were with them all the way until like the last 4 minutes. We were down like 8 and then they kind of blew it open. But that was the game where I would say that was the game where it went from me just being a role player to me being one of the main guys.
And when you two finally clicked, was it what you said? Was that KU game, or when did you two finally get on page and start saying, okay, we're going to really start going together. We're going to kind of make you become a top player, but not just that, like you two kind of really started to bond both personally on the core, a coach-player relationship. Like when did it all just kind of come together for you two?
It was a work in progress the whole way through. I mean, I always respected him as a coach and as a man, and he respected me the same way. But he was just trying to get the best out of me, to help me, and not only me but help the team. So yeah, I would say the whole time, the whole Coach Lee era, he was working on. He knew I could score, so he never asked me anything offensively. He always got on me about defensive and rebounding. But as far as when it clicked, it was just a work in progress. He never really told me that your defense is perfect and your rebounding is perfect. We just kept working at it, and as I got older, I wanted him to be on me even more about it because I was trying to help myself and the team too. So
let's go into that KU game because that was your breakout performance. And obviously, you just look at the facts. You're going to play Kansas. We know who they are. They're blue blood, one of the top programs year in, year out. And as you said, the number one in the country too. So that even adds a lot more attention. What was going through pregame? Like as you just talked about, you didn't yet click. You weren't necessarily buying that. You didn't have your breakout performance. This was technically your freshman year too. So walk us through that performance. Were you expecting to go off that night? Were you feeling it before the game? Just take us through that night for you.
I felt real good before the game. I did. And the night before, I felt real good too. And, I wasn't, obviously we didn't have anything to lose. We're going into the number one team in the country. We're going to the Allen Fieldhouse. I didn't have anything to lose. We didn't have anything to lose. But I think that's what kind of got me because when we were playing, because I came off the bench this game too. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching the game. Before the game, I had a good warm up. I remember just feeling like I felt real good. And I'm starting off on the bench and I'm watching the game and we're down like 7-9-0. And I'm looking, I'm getting frustrated on the bench. I'll talk to one of my teammates next to me. I'm like, when I get it, I'm just going to go. Cause I'm looking like we're just scared out there. Like we don't got nothing to lose. We're not even taking shots. I don't even think we attempted a shot. Like we were turning it over, just shook. We just looked completely scared out there. And I was just looking like, yeah, when I get out there, I'm going. So then I get out there, first play, my first offensive play, it's like a pick and roll. I finish at the basket, that was our first bucket of the game, and I just went from there and just started taking over.
Now that roster had, I think Devon Dotson was a sophomore, freshman year that year. I think Lajovic was still on that team. But who was your favorite guy in that game to go match up against? Like, I think that Marcus Garrett was obviously out there too at that time. So who was like your favorite matchup in that game to go up against?
I would say it was Dedrick Lawson. He was kind of a lot like me, but he was guarding me, and I think that was a good matchup for me because he wasn't as quick laterally. Yep. And I put McCormick on me too, so I don't think they knew too much about my game, like my game in its entirety, like the mid range, being able to shoot from three. So I think that was good. I think I kind of caught him off guard. So it was good though. It was a good game for me.
And that's another aspect I want to touch up on your game because that's what makes you more unique. You're 6'6", 6'7". You obviously are going to probably, when you talk about playing pro, you're going to probably run more of a shooting guard, small forward at times too, and also you can bring the ball at times too as well. But you also have the capability because you're mid-range, your fundamental, just the scoring ability to run a stretch four at times as well. So how have you learned to kind of just become someone that can be pretty much interchangeable at 3, 4, maybe even 5 positions at certain times?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the evolution of the game, I think, too. I think that's just how it is nowadays. You got to be able to defend and to play multiple positions.
Yeah.
And I think the way I grew, too, kind of helped, too, because I hit a big growth spurt between my freshman and sophomore year. I was like 5'10" my freshman year of high school,
Mhm.
and then 6'3", 6'4" my sophomore year. So all that summer I grew, but I kept my guard skills. I was always a guard. And then I even grew like 2 inches since then, 2, 3 inches, got a lot stronger, but I always kept working on my game, playmaking ability. So I think, yeah, I mean that, and then it is tough to kind of define one thing about like what my game is because it's so versatile. And I think that's a good thing.
Well, there is one other game I want to touch up on from your sophomore season that was your 32-point game, which was your career high at that point. Take us to that game. You're going against Purdue Fort. Wayne, having that kind of outing obviously is huge. 32 points as a sophomore. Take us to that night. Just what got into that night?
I remember that night. I was clicking that night. We were playing against John Conchar. He's actually on the Grizzlies now. I still talk to him often too. But yeah, it was they came in as one of the better teams in the conference, and this is one of our first league games, and we really needed a win. We're at home, and I remember just feeling real good with my matchup and just taking over, kind of just using my teammates first of all, and then picking my spots, playing real good defense that game. I remember for sure, and that's really what led to the offense.
You got to take a stick. What makes a summer league like that? Because it's obviously, I mean, we know it's not necessarily an SEC. It's not top to bottom stacked with talent, but each team, and there's a few different guys each year that has like an elite scoring level that can translate to the NBA. Talk about Matt Mooney. He obviously went to Texas Tech for a year, but he still is from there. Obviously, we know Max. We know yourself. We know John. We know all the different guys. What is it about that? And what's it like playing and having to go up against a lot of the high level scoring players in that conference?
I think the high level scores in that conference, they're just real smart. That's the
Yeah.
toughest thing because me, you could, I mean, sometimes some people will say I take bad shots, but they all feel good to me. So,
Mhm.
but I think as far as the great players in that conference, they don't let you rush them and they don't let you speed them up or they don't let you get them out of their game. So like they know what they're gonna do before the game. You know what they're gonna do before the game, but you just can't stop it because they're so disciplined and they're well coached too. They know where they're gonna get the ball. It's real tough trying to scout for some of the best players in that league. It's real tough.
That's might put you on the spot, but you've been out there now for 4 years. Truly played 3 of those years. Who is your favorite matchup to go against? Rather it be just for one game thing, and when you went to per se Kansas to an out of conference team, or even some that you had to go play against, like Max, for a couple different years. Like, who was your favorite matchup for your college career so far?
I'd say Kevin O'Banner for
Mm-hmm.
sure. As far as matchup goes, as far as one of the best players I've seen in that conference, Paul Miller was really good.
Mm-hmm.
He played at NDSU. He was a real good player, but I think Kevin O'Banner was my favorite matchup. We kind of had a similar kind of thing going on
Yeah.
as far as him breaking out his sophomore year, me breaking out, and I know he was kind of upset about me making first team that sophomore year instead of him because it was close. I know it was close.
Well, let's head into that junior season then, and you make second team All Summit that year. You have an even better season than your sophomore year. You jump to 17 points a game, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal and a block per game. What led to that upperclassman year then? Because that's now your upperclassman, and you obviously we're talking about a second too. Like you obviously entered the portal for a second there, but how are you preparing for that junior season? Just getting ready to take that next jump for your upperclassman years now.
Yeah, that summer was pretty tough for me going into that junior season. Obviously, I said I was in the portal, and a lot of stuff was going on in the portal. Like it was tough for me, and the whole time I was knowing that I kind of wasn't even really ready to leave. It was just kind of a lot of outside noise saying like, because especially I had that Kansas game and I broke out my sophomore year. They're like, get out of there. Like now you could go play at a higher level, but the recruitment process that time around it just didn't feel right to me. And
Mm-hmm.
I knew the whole time that I was kind of like still leaning on going back and I didn't want to have any regrets. So I was just like, let me go back and just lock in. So it kind of, as far as like development goes that summer, it was kind of tough for me to get going right away.
Mm-hmm.
That, but when I got to school, I started picking it up, trying to prepare myself for the season. And I knew that I was going to take a little bit of a step back because my numbers went up, but as far as my role kind of went a step back because we got Tyler Hagedorn back. We had Tristan Simpson. We had Cody Kelly, Tyler Peterson, Brandon Armstrong. We had older guys. I was a junior, but I was still the youngest player in the starting lineup. So, and it was kind of by far too. So I was, like I said, I was just kind of trying to lead by example and pick my spots. But we were projected to be a really good team that year with all of our experience. So it was a fun year for sure. But obviously we didn't end up the way we expected, and COVID ended the season anyways. But we had already lost by then. So and Hagedorn had a great season, led the country in scoring. So that's my guy too.
So let's say the new transfer rule, obviously it probably wouldn't have affected you either. I mean, you got cleared to go play this year, but you're a grad transfer anyway. So if at that point you would have had to go sit out for a season and registered and got ready where if you did decide to transfer. So if the new rule was in place at that point where you could have just went in and played right away, do you think that would have made it more enticing? And could you possibly even see yourself transfer at that point then?
That would have made it a lot. That would have made the decision kind of harder, because it would have made it harder because it would have made it like, okay, maybe I should leave when I still want to stay. Because the thing I wanted to do for sure, I wanted to stay. I knew I wanted to stay, but it was just about, okay, what's best for me as a player and as far as pursuing my professional career. So it wasn't a question about what I wanted to do. I was taken care of. I loved being there. So it was more of just about like what I should do for myself. And it came down to me just being like, okay, why would I do anything I don't want to do? I mean, God's telling me that I want to do this for a reason. So let me just stick with where my heart's at.
Was there any school that was enticing to you? Like, was there a school? I know you kind of talked about, you and Mark were talked a little bit, but was there a program out that you kind of were really interested in, maybe even got kind of close to possibly saying, okay, this actually could be an option that I really like?
Yeah, I was talking to Arizona like that. Arizona was probably the front runner that time around. They had Nico and Josh Green coming in.
Yeah.
But, that was still going to hurt me. And, that's what I was really looking at doing. I was trying to set up a visit there, but I had went home after the school season, and that's when I decided that I was just going to, shut it down.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into that junior season. Like we said, you averaged 17 points a game, still a pretty good year. But you look at the record as a team, you guys go 20-12. Obviously, COVID came into effect at the end of the year anyways. But walk us through that year a little bit. Take us through the ups and downs of your junior season.
It was hard to kind of try to find an identity, because we knew we had all the experience and we should be winning way more games. Like, we ended up with winning 20 games, but I feel like we left about 10, or not 10 games out there. We probably left about 4 or 5, 6 games out there to where we just slipped up at the end. We had a lot of guys too, so it was hard for us to figure out, who our closer was. And, I found myself at the end of a lot of games being like, dang, the final shot came, I didn't even get the ball, this and that. But like, I think that was tough, try to figure out how to manage all the pieces that we had and try to keep everyone happy. But I did love playing with those guys. They were great leaders, and we got 20 wins. I'm happy we were able to do that. But I think we underachieved that year for sure.
Now, when you talk about just learning from those guys as well, because you knew then that the next season was going to be your time to shine. Like, a lot of the guys were all moving on. Then it was just going to be you pretty much. How did you learn? What was maybe the biggest thing you did learn for yourself that junior year?
I think I just learned that, just to always make sure you're checking in on your teammates. Those older guys did a good job of, making sure that everyone was good off the court as well as on the court. They were making sure that everyone was doing what they were supposed to be doing off the court. They always got in the gym. I was getting in the gym with them, making their own meals, like stuff like that, taking care of your body. I got a lot of that from those guys.
So as we said, COVID does come into play then, and obviously it changed the world and still is affecting it today. But how did you adjust as a player? I know each guy kind of took it differently. How did you adjust to the COVID offseason where you weren't able to go back on campus? You guys didn't have the full typical offseason, the typical training camp, the typical all that stuff. How did you adjust getting ready for last season?
It was tough for sure. We after I remember when COVID hit, when COVID hit, they sent everyone home, I remember, and me and my roommates, we ended up just staying there. We ended up just staying at the crib for about all the way until like May. We just quarantined. And, I was just chilling with them. And then I got home in about May. And by the time I got home, it was like everything was still shut down in Texas. So I was sitting around every day trying to figure out, how am I going to get better today? What am I going to do to get better? I was doing some backyard workouts, garage workouts, but gym access just wasn't the way it was supposed to be, as far as me trying to do what I was trying to do. So I ended up going back on campus actually early. I went back on campus in June, just to be able to get in the gym more often and this and that. So I was up there with three other teammates, the ones that had to sit out the year before. I was up there just getting some workouts in with them. It's limited still, but it was tough. It was tough to get everything we needed to get in.
Now, you personally had a pretty great year, and obviously as a team, like, you guys lost a lot of experience, so it was a difficult year to just as a team, especially when you factor in all the COVID protocols. So throughout the duration of the year, then how did you guys get accustomed to the different protocols, having to wear the mask, the testing pretty much almost every other day, going through this, adding all these new pieces in, trying to get new roles on this roster? Like, how did you guys just get through last season with everything going on?
It was crazy. It felt like a movie, really. Like every day or every week, it was something new coming up. Like someone else got this, or someone else had to sit out, or someone else. It was just, we just embraced it. I think that's all it was. It was like, this is what's happening to us isn't going to happen to anyone else. So like, let's just try to have as much fun with it as possible is what we did. And we just said, like, every time something happened, we were like, yep, just another part, just another clip of the movie.
When you look at your own performance, 22 points a game last year, and that's ninth in the entire country, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal and a block again. You make first team All Summit League. Would you say it was a successful year for you personally? Did you achieve what you wanted last year, or was there still more you could have achieved or you wanted to even achieve?
Individually, statistically wise, it was okay. The points are there. I wanted to average a double with rebounds. I did pass the ball out more, assist wise. I was averaging 3 a game, which I was proud of, but the turnovers were too high. Steals and blocks definitely too low. But like as far as my leadership, I'm real proud of the way I was able to bring the team along. Everyone bought in, and everyone, I feel like I had everyone's trust, as well as winning games in the regular season. We ended up going on a 10-game win streak in conference, something that we've never done at South Dakota. We won a game at South Dakota State, something that I've never done. We came close to it. It hasn't been done in about 20 years, I think, by USD. We won a game at South Dakota State. That was probably the biggest highlight. But, just the way it crumbled down at the end it's still tough. It still haunts me, watching my guy AJ go down the way he did and not being able to compete with us in the conference tournament. It was tough. It was tough. It was a quick turnaround to have to come back to the tournament without our guys. So, as far as, making it to the NCAA tournament with them, I wasn't able to bring USD to the NCAA tournament. And that's probably one of the toughest things.
Let's say AJ never got healthy, and we see how special that Oral Roberts team was. You have 2 guys that are both going to be 2 of the top players in the country next year. Could you guys have beat that team? Like, do you think when you guys matched up in a tournament, would you guys have been the team that possibly could have went to the tournament, possibly even had that type of run?
Yeah, we were the last team to beat them before. We were the last team to beat them before Arkansas, actually. So AJ had 37 against them.
Yep.
At our place. So, it is tough. I do think that we would have had a great chance at beating them. We had a great chance at it because we ended up losing to NDSU in the second round. I think we would have had a great chance with AJ of winning that game and possibly making it to the NCAA tournament. But it's tough. It is tough to think about, but, everything happens for a reason.
And there is something that majority of the country, I know there's some media and there are some diehard mid-major fans out there, but obviously the majority of the world thinks that Oral Roberts just was a team that came out of the blue. They weren't good all year. You guys know that they obviously had the scoring. Everyone knew how good Max was. Everyone knew what Kevin was. And that's kind of the case for a lot of you guys. Not too many people until you put your name in the portal probably knew about your name too well. And that goes for a lot of those type of guys. So what comes with that? Like when majority of the time you guys go to any situation, you guys are going to be the underdogs. People don't respect you guys to the degree that you're going to get more respect now at Arkansas. How do you kind of handle that? And just what's it like kind of embracing that mid-major underdog mentality?
Yeah, that's all it is. You just got to embrace it, really. There's nothing you can do really much to change it unless you get on that national stage and you make it to the tournament or you transfer this and that. But I think it's just embracing it, even as far as my time here, like the Arkansas fans are crazy, obviously. Like sometimes I'll get noticed, but I'll be walking with Diva or Jay Will and it'll be like I'm just a regular guy. I'm just walking around like, Diva, and it's like, I'll just walk around like I just don't even do anything. So it is fun. Like I embrace it. It is what it is. I don't really get too bought into that. If I take care of what I got to take care of, then people will know me or whatever. If they don't, it is what it is too. So like I know who I am.
So you were ninth in the country last year in scoring. The guy in your conference we talked about a couple of times was number one. And that's pretty rare to have two guys in the same conference going at it like that. So as you as a player, I can imagine you always want to be number one. That's always everyone's goal. Were you and Max like going at it when you guys didn't match up? I know you went with Kevin majority of the time, but just take us through you kind of competing with Max in just terms of getting the number one scoring record.
It's tough. No, Max is my guy too. And I also my junior year when he was a freshman, I knew he was gonna be this good. But like I remember after we played them, I was like, first of all, I know he's gotta be from Texas the way he's playing. And like second of all, that dude is nice and he's gonna be real nice. He didn't even really do too much against us. But like just watching the way he was playing and like because he wasn't one of the main guys that at that time, but I just knew that he was actually like real good. Some of my teammates were like, "What? He only had like 8 points." I'm like, I just watched, like, and that's how I am with a lot of people too. I say I should be a GM one of these days because I feel like I'm always seeing that stuff. I feel like I'm always seeing stuff like that. But I remember being like, yeah, that kid is cold. So, but no, like, yeah, it is tough. I mean, I'm happy for him too, like, because obviously I know the work he put in. It just sucks he had to do all of that my senior year and take the player of the year, but he deserved it. He deserved it for sure. So I'm not even mad about that, but. It was. I wasn't really doing too much competing with him, but I was always checking the box score after they played just because it's like I know he did something crazy tonight.
Mm-hmm. And you had one of those historic nights, though. You had a 41-point game, something that not many guys in the country have done ever. I mean, it's not something you see too often. So that was against South Dakota State, too. So take us to that night. We've talked about a few different hot nights, but 41 is a different level. So walk us to that night. Just what ultimately led you to get 41 that night?
I was just trying to do whatever we could to win. At that time, we were 0-5. So, we knew that we weren't going to come out the gates with all the new guys. We knew we were going to keep – it was a work in progress. We knew we were going to get better, but we had just blew 2 games in a row because we were in a little tournament with South Dakota State, North Dakota State, and North Dakota. So we blew a game to North Dakota where I had missed like a game-winning kind of like a layup floater. Yeah. And then after that, we played NDSU and we played them tough. Like we had a great game. We played one of our better games of the season and it just didn't work out for us. So when we lost that one and we were 0-5 on the season. And then we had to play State the next day, who just beat both of those teams that we lost to. So it was like, I remember I actually ended up calling some of the guys from the team from the last year. We had like a group message. I talked to Brandon, Cody, Hags, all those guys. I remember talking to them. They were like, dang, Stan, like, I was like, yeah, I know. And I remember just talking to them like, y'all would be all right. Like they just kind of encouraged me, And then the next day I woke up feeling great. I was like, we're 0-5. We don't got nothing to lose. No one expects us to beat these guys. And I was just like, we're not going to lose this game. That's basically how I was feeling. Like, we're not going to lose this game. So I took a different approach. I kind of let my teammates go first. And they played well right out the gate. So then it was less pressure for me to just have to get to my spot and make shots. So I think that was kind of how it went. And once I got hot in the first half, and then I just felt like I couldn't miss.
So you look at all your games you've had between that game, your 41-point game, your old career high of 32 in your sophomore year, obviously just coming off the bench at Allen Fieldhouse doing that and breaking the scoring record, obviously had a big night for you. Like out of every one of the games that you could probably think of, what game was your favorite one of your college career so far?
I'd say the 41. I'd say the one because it was against State, first of all. It's close between that and Kansas. It's real close because, Kansas was at Kansas. I think I was one of the youngest players to even, score that much at the time in Allen Fieldhouse. So, But I would say the one last year, that one meant a lot because, we were 0-5. We needed that win. And I knew going into the game how bad I wanted to win that game too. So like just being able to, have a performance like that. And it was in the Sanford Pentagon too, like in a venue like that. It was great. It was special.
A couple more things about South Dakota before we head into the portal and Arkansas stuff. One of which is you just mentioned that you have that GMI. You kind of always like seeing different players. So who's the next breakout guy, either at South Dakota, someone else in your conference? Like who is someone that you think is going to break out in the Summit League or especially even in on your own team at South Dakota next year?
I would say I'll go with Xavier Fuller on my team. And I would say AJ too. He's still rehabbing, but I know when he gets back, he's one of the best. He's the best shooter I've ever been around, and including Matt Mooney. AJ Plitzwhite is the best shooter I've been around. So, but Xavier Fuller, look for him to have a big year next year.
Absolutely. And out of all the records you have, we mentioned first all time in scoring, you're third in rebounds, and the list goes on of all different types of records and top three, top five things that you're a part of. Which one means the most to you?
I would say I can't really think of anything that really just that pops out. I mean, the scoring is what it is. I've always been doing that. So I think the biggest one was that win at State last year. Not the one that I scored 41 was in a neutral site, but we ended up playing them during the conference and we beat them at their place, which is something that it seemed like it was a curse. Like all 4 years, every time we went over there, we'd be so close. We'd be beating them in the first half by 20 with whatever it was, and they'd just come back and so I remember the feeling after beating them, and that was our 10th win in a row too in conference. I remember the feeling was just different because like I know that even all the alumni, the guys that I played with that are left, I know they feel this one too. So I think that was the most special one for me.
Absolutely. Well, the season comes to a conclusion then, and about midway through the season, maybe more towards the beginning parts of it, you guys start finding out that you guys will be able to come back for next year if you choose to do that. So obviously, we know what the answer is now. You chose to come back. You're in Arkansas. But what point did you start thinking that was an idea for you? Like, when did you start thinking, okay, I actually might want to come back for another year of college. I might utilize this thing and become a super senior now?
I started thinking of it, because they came up with that rule like right before the season started. Because I was getting questions like that during my senior season, like, what are your plans next year? And I was trying to just live in the moment as much as I could, and I was really enjoying my time last year. Had a really good year, and meeting with the new guys, loved playing with the team. So it was just kind of living in the moment. I wasn't really trying to think about it too much until the season kind of ended. So like when the season ended, it was like I just had to kind of sit there for about 2 or 3 days. I remember going back home. My sister got married. I went home. I talked to my family about it. And around April, like around Easter time, it was like that was when the recruitment was picking up. I remember by then I made my decision that I was going to end up, just doing another year at college, and I was going to still test the draft process too, to at least get that experience.
Now, when you talk about the portal, obviously you've been now part of 3 different things. The other thing we're talking about is NIL in a second, but you're part of the new year for the very first time. You have the super senior, you have the transfer rule now, you have the NIL coming into factor. Being just a part of like all this new stuff happening in college, how have you adjusted to that? And what's it like to now kind of embracing all the new aspects of the college life now?
Yeah, I haven't really changed too much. I just tried to, stick with what I've been doing as far as that goes. I mean, there's a lot of different stuff going on, but I think most of it will take care of itself as long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. Well, let's go through that draft process because, as you said, originally you then put your name in the portal, but you go through the draft process. We saw a lot of guys do. So, what was that experience like for you? Like just getting to go learn, hear from GMs and coaches. Like, what did you take away from the whole experience?
I had a workout with the Celtics, and I was working out in Arizona too with Phil Beckner. This is the Be Better, Be Different. Shout out to him.
Yep.
But I was, it was great. It was a great experience, because growing up, it's always been my dream to actually be in that position, but I like just actually going through it, it just felt different. So like, I remember flying first class to my Celtics workout, stuff like that. It's like, wow, it's just like, it just makes me want to work even harder because it shows me how far the work has got me to this point. So I think that's just the biggest thing I could take away from it is just, just the experience and knowing that, and around that time next year, it could be the same, if not better. It just inspired me to work even harder.
So obviously you decided to come back and develop another year before you head out for the official time next year. So what would you say is something that the Celtics or even Coach Beckner or any other different guys talked to you about and said, okay, this is where we want to see you improve on for your final year of college basketball now?
Defensively, being able to be one of the best defenders. They say I have good defensive tools, just being able to use them more, get more steals, blocks, offensive rebounds, just playing with more activity and, just trying not to, like how Coach Lee always said, not trying to just think about scoring when I get out there, which, I mean, it's hard whenever you got that ability, that you want to be able to do what you can to help the team win, but it's just more about being more engaged about the game as a whole is what I got to work on.
Well, let's go through that transfer portal process. And as we obviously know, you're going to Arkansas now, but there were a lot of schools in the mix for you. So kind of take us through this, like what led you to Arkansas and what other schools would you say kind of came up second for you? Maybe like, was there another school you'd say had Arkansas not been in the picture for you, that's where you would have been heading?
Yeah, I think a lot like with the South Dakota situation. Since I jumped in the portal and after I talked to Mus for the first time, it was like somebody's got to beat that. It wasn't like okay, it wasn't like well, let me got my options. It was like okay, I want to go to Arkansas. Let me keep talking to everyone else to see if anyone can beat that. So Mus talked to me every day. He made it clear that I was a priority, like a priority, big time priority. He was always calling me, and the staff did a good job of breaking down my game and incorporating it to how I would fit here. They painted out a perfect picture of how they would use me, and so far, it's all been what they said. So I would say like a school that came in that kind of made it hard was kind of Oregon there at the end. They jumped in and it was I would say it came down to either there or Arkansas.
And so I know more and more of the country continues to see Coach Muss, and I know there's some other fun coaches out there. I know Coach Pearl, obviously, he deserves some respect. He's a fun coach. There's quite a few other ones that have that personality, but I think the front runner and the leader of that is Coach Muss in terms of just his vibrant energy. He goes above and beyond for pretty much everything he does. So take us through this whole new personality of a coach and Coach Muss. Like, what's it been like adjusting to that, and just how have you grown Coach Muss so far?
Yeah, no, his personality is different. Like he's trying to do everything different. One of his main words. Like he's trying to find ways to do things out of the box. Like you could see it with what he does on social media, and like his social media presence is more than any other coach I've seen. Like meeting with he was backstage with Trippie Redd, MGK, stuff like that. So like it's just every day being able to work with him is it's like a privilege. He's like a celebrity out here, so it's crazy.
You've been a part of three different coaches. Coach Craig Smith's quickly working his way up now. He's out of Utah. Talk about Coach Lee and now Coach Muss. What's the biggest difference you'd say is between Coach Muss, Coach Lee, and Coach Smith, obviously?
I'd say Coach Muss and Coach Smith are kind of alike as far as like their enthusiasm. As far as like how they go. Coach Lee's different. He's strictly business. He's gonna shoot it to you straight, no sugarcoating. Like, and obviously doesn't use social media really at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I know Coach Lee and Coach Muss are actually really good friends too. So like as far as like the basketball wise, it was an easy transition because they kind of use a lot of the same terminology and they appreciate the same things as well as they don't like the same things. So yeah, I think that was also a good thing for me as far as coming to Arkansas.
There's only so much that the media and fans can go see of what practices are like in college. So we know Coach Muss's personality online and social media and on in front of a camera, but is he still that kind of vibrant energy when he gets into a practice? Does he get more serious and focused, locked in during a practice? Like, how does he change throughout a practice when he is on off the court?
Yeah, it's the same amount of energy and enthusiasm. He just puts it towards something else. Like so, if he's mad at you, you're gonna get all of that anger. Like you're gonna feel it. So like he's never off. He never turns it off, as far as I see. Maybe when he gets home with his family, but as far as every time I see him, he's on. He's on.
What's the funniest memory you've had so far, Coach Muss?
Funniest memory, Coach Muss. There's a good amount actually. Let me think. Let me think. I don't even know actually. I can't even come up with one right now. I'd say at his house, just the memories at his house. He cracks a lot of jokes whenever we go for team dinner. So I'll say just those.
And we do know, obviously, I know Coach Muss probably can't talk about it right now in terms of specific names. They're going to be signing in the next week or so, but there's going to be a pretty good 2022 class that's probably coming in. And we always see a celebration happen to occur on video whenever someone has to commit to. So take us through those experiences. Like, is that something that's planned between each coach? Do you guys have a part in that? How do you guys react? Just take us through when a guy might be committing to Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
What goes into all that stuff?
He'll just tell us, like he won't even tell us if they're coming or not. He'll just like most of the time they don't even know if they're coming or not. He just wants to be prepared. So like he'll just tell us he'll tell us what to do for the video, and he won't even really tell us why. He'll just tell us like, yeah, everyone go do this, and we'll record it, and then you guys can go home. Like it'll be at the end of practice. So like we'll just be like, okay. And then somebody will commit, and then like we'll see our video later. So it's like, oh, that's what it was for. So like, it's real funny, but it's different the way he does that. And I know it makes the recruits feel good too, knowing that even some of us aren't going to be here. We're still excited about them, joining the program.
Which one was your favorite one you've done so far?
The dunk one, slam dunk one. I was the one who got the dunk for that one. So that was my favorite.
Now, when you do get these guys on campus, and we know the visits are going back now, so you've been able to, for the past, 3-4 months now, these guys have been able to come on campus. You see the recruits coming in. Is there anything that you've connected with so far? And just what's it kind of like just being around that, kind of interact with these top recruits now too? Like, how have you adjusted to that? And just what's that been like?
It's been different for me too, especially because like just being around guys, some of the guys like Nick, just being around him, like he's sixth in the country. It's like that's kind of crazy. And, like I wasn't even ranked in my state, so it's like how are you living? What do you do on a day-to-day basis? So it's like, but we're all the same. Like it's not even like none of the guys that I've met so far actually act any different. Like think that they're better than anyone else or anything like that. So it's all love, and I think we got a good culture here too, as far as that goes.
Well, let's get into this year's team because this is a new look roster for the most part. They lost a lot of guys. Moses Moody obviously went to the lottery. Jalen, Justin, Desi, a lot of different guys left this team, and you guys added a whole new group of guys. Obviously yourself. We got Jackson. You got Chris. Adis, obviously big addition. Kamani technically was there last year, but it's his first year playing with him now. Trey, like the whole list chance, like the list goes on, different guys coming in. So walk us through this roster. Like, what can fans expect? How special are you guys? And like, just how great can this Arkansas team be this year?
We got a chance to do something real special. We're real deep. We got a lot of versatility and athleticism, quickness, even at the 4 and 5 spots. Like, I think a lot of guys are going to surprise people this year with just being able to do things that they probably haven't seen. Like Jay Will could really shoot it. Devo could really shoot it off the dribble. Like, and then guys like Chris and Jax all bring different things to the game. So it's like any guy in any given night can have a good night, and that's how it's going to be. Like one person, it's not going to be a consistent, I don't think, scoring leader every night, and everyone's just going to be able to contribute in their own ways, and people can contribute in different ways every night, which is so special. And like I've never played with a team that's been able to have that uniqueness.
That's the thing. We obviously already know you can get buckets, it's what you do, but obviously getting ninth in the country again, 22 points a game, probably won't happen just in terms of how much deep on this team. Like you said, there's going to be different guys that score each night. Could be something where you get 14, 15, 16 a game or something. So how have you adjusted? Like, has it been an adjusting process for you yet, kind of falling into more of a role this year per se, as opposed to just being the guy, or have you kind of naturally kind of adjusted to this group?
I think it was kind of just I kind of adjusted by agreeing to come here. I kind of known that was like, coming and playing on a talented team like that, it's not going to be the same way. I might not get the same amount of touches, the same amount of shots. So, just agreeing to come here, committing here is part of my commitment, committing to sacrifice anything I got, to make the team better. So if there are some nights where I do that, then that's fine too. But like, I'm just going to be able to do whatever I can to make the team better.
So who's the most underrated player on the team right now? You could include yourself if you want to, because like you said, not too many people all know about you specifically, unless you look at the stats and everything from last year. But who's the most underrated guy, or kind of the one person in this team that people aren't expecting for that's going to have a big year this year?
My guy, actually, my roommate Jackson Robinson, for sure. I don't want to speak on it too much because I don't want to ruin the surprise, but he's got something for everyone.
Absolutely. Well, in terms of yourself specifically, we know you can get buckets, but kind of give the fans everything that they can expect from you this upcoming season.
Oh, a lot of energy, and a lot of talking and leadership for sure too. Like I said, my last year at South Dakota, having to bring all those new guys in and be the lone leader, it taught me a lot of leadership qualities. So in-game leadership for sure. A lot of talking, a lot of and just a lot of action for sure. Just a lot of getting to it.
You guys have had one thing publicly, at least people have got to see a scrimmage public. I know you guys probably have gone back and forth during practices and workouts and all, but the red versus white game just happened about a week ago now. What was it like just getting in front of that fan base, being around them, playing as a team for the first time publicly? What was that environment, that game like?
It was I would say like the fan base was crazy. We had two lines in Barnhill. It was the amount of people there is probably more people than I've played in front of in my whole life, probably even. So it's like just getting ready for that. It's a great experience. The energy was there. You could feel the energy in the air in Fayetteville when there was even for just a scrimmage. So it just gets me even that much more excited for when we do the real thing.
One thing I noticed, I'm kind of surprised it didn't get talked about as much, is that on the back of your guys' jerseys, it wasn't just your last name; it was your guys' Instagram or social media handles too. So, is that something we can expect? Like, will that be on the jerseys the coming year? And just what kind of went to that decision?
I think it was just, Coach Musselman. He's a social media wizard. So like he's always trying to he's looking out for us as far as, getting our engagement going, because that's all it's all part of it now. Like the NIL, I think we're ahead of the curve here at Arkansas with that stuff, just by having a coach like Muss. So I think that's just a part of it, just and it did help too. It helps them follow you as well as follow you.
So those going to be on the normal jerseys too, or that just like the practice scrimmage jerseys are those on?
I think that was just for the scrimmage. I can't see us, having that for the actual games.
Absolutely. Well, a couple more things before I let you go. One of which is the number that you've been rocking out with now for your career, and that's number 0. So walk us that a little bit. Like, what led you to choosing that number, and why is that the number you rock out with?
I'm gonna come up with a real good, meaningful meaning for why I wear 0. I am going to, because I don't really have one, but I have always been wearing 0. I've worn 0 with my AAU team, the team that since I was like 6th grade, I've been wearing 0 for AAU. Never wore it in high school, but once I got to South Dakota, I was back to 0, and I got the 0 here too. And I know Westbrook's been my favorite player for a while. I don't think he's the reason why I wear 0, because I was 0 before I was even a Westbrook fan. So I'm still coming up with. I'm gonna have a real good meaning for why I rock it though.
Without doubt. Well, something I was like wrapping up discussing is talking about your legacy. I know all guys want to remember for something. So when you do eventually step away from this game someday down the road, what do you want to be remembered for what you achieved both on and off the court throughout your career?
Yeah, I would say on the court, just my ability, my talent, just natural talent, and being able to one-on-one, not being unguardable one-on-one. I think that's one of the main things that I take pride in. And also just my legacy as far as being around the game and stuff like that is just like the relationships that I've made. I've had a lot of really meaningful relationships over the course of my career, and basketball's taken me to places I never would have thought I would have been to. Even Arkansas, I never would have thought I'd been here without basketball. So I think it's just the relationships I made and the amount of impact that I could have on people. I hope that people will be able to say that I've had a positive impact on them every time that I've met them.
We touched base a little bit on God throughout the course of this interview, but to kind of get into that, to wrap it up though, how have you really seen God, like throughout all this journey now, everything, all the ups and downs, the highs and lows throughout your career? Where have you really seen God the most, or is there one moment even specifically that you've really looked back and say, okay, I really saw God work at this point in my life?
I would say the most was when I decided to come back to South Dakota my sophomore year. I think that everyone, I even had some family, like even some family telling me like, what are you doing? Like we're even telling you to leave, like this and that, like you're going to go against us, this and that. So I think that was the main part. I saw God, I put God first. So I was able to see him then and really look deep inside to see that the decision that I was planning on making wasn't the right one. So I'd say that's when I seen him the most. But throughout the whole journey, he's been with me. Like I feel like every decision that I made at the time, it could have been questionable, but like I look back on it and I look where I'm at now, and it's like it's all God, really. It's really all God. He's done so much for me, and the position that I'm in now to make my dreams come true. It's just I just can't help but thank him. So.
No, I'm not sure if you like grew up in a household that kind of was a Christian base or whatnot, but I know eventually, even those that are born in a Christian house, like there comes a time where you start really forming that one-on-one relationship with God, and you truly like form that, not just like a family kind of learning Bible stories, but truly that personal relationship with him. So when was that for you? Like, did that come during high school, middle school? Like, when was that point for you?
It started in college, whenever I got away from my mom, because I was in a Christian household as well, church every Sunday, this and that. So
Yep.
It started in college when I started really, really reading the Bible. Like my freshman year, I was tuned into the Bible, just trying to, and it really helped me. And Mooney as well. He's super, super, super religious. So he was never shameful about it. He brought us along. He brought me, and it's kind of crazy. I just now remembered this, that he's brought in me to, some Bible studies, and only me. Like it was just me and him and some Bible studies on Wednesdays. Like, and I think that just seeing him and being around that, it kind of helped me build in my own faith by myself. And I've still been with it. I got a Bible next to my bed, so it's just being away from my mom. It was harder, but it's just, guys like Mooney helped bring me along. And even now we got the FCA every Thursday. So it's good.
I know as a Christian, I mean, the game of basketball for the most part, like there are a lot of people, both coaches and players that have faith foundations, but there still will be some people that obviously aren't believers in the locker room. And there might even be guys that's going to go through struggles. Even believers obviously go through highs and lows as well. So how have you now kind of taken there? Have you been able to take that opportunity to kind of go and be like someone else in the locker room? And how do you kind of be that leader that's a Christian follower as well in a basketball locker room?
Yeah, it's just, just trying to let God shine through me is what the main thing I can do is, and just trying not to be too overzealous about it. But like we have FCA on Thursdays, like it's just as easy, even if there's a non-believer, like we got, Trey Wade, he's actually a Muslim. So it's like he'll come in there and he'll come do the FCA with us too. Like it's just mainly about just being a good teammate over everything. And I think that's the main thing.
Absolutely. Well, you're going to get a bigger and bigger platform now throughout next year in college, and then obviously whatever God's got in store for you pro-wise, NBA, overseas, whatever that's going to look like. So how do you plan to be his light on the national stage? Like as you get a larger and larger platform, how do you plan to be able to spread his light on a global or a national stage?
Just, I know just trying to show that you shouldn't be ashamed of anything. Like you should be proud of your faith, and no matter what it is. So I think that's the biggest way I'm going to make my light shine through him is by no matter what religion you are, just trying to be that and do your best in it. And I think that's the main way I'm going to do it.
Absolutely, man. My final thing for you, give Arkansas fans your 3 biggest goals you have set for this upcoming season.
First one is win the SEC. Second one is make the NCAA tournament. And the third one is to win the NCAA tournament.
Absolutely, man. Well, best luck this upcoming season. I'm excited to see what God got next for you and appreciate you taking time to come on today, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
Of course, you're welcome on, man. God bless.
God bless.